We both recording here. Good. Okay. Yeah, that's light years better than it was before.
Yeah.
So we're back.
Back for number 5. Quattro. Is that it? Is quattro or cinco? I don't
Cinco.
know. Cinco.
Fünf. Nummer fünf. Nummer.
Fünf.
Is that how you say it in German? Nummer.
I don't know.
Nummer fünf. Fünf is how you say 5. I can't remember if it's. Yeah, nummer. Anyways, great start to that one. Okay, we're back once again. Oh,
Well,
see,
you know,
we got a couple.
remember we said the fourth wasn't really 4. It was like 4A, and this would be like 4B. But we're gonna call this 5.
Yes, I put it up already. It's
Yeah,
number
so
4.
Number 4.
Couple orders of business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, first, apologies to nobody, because nobody actually follows along in time. But we did put it out. I just put it out today, the last podcast. I don't plan on doing that in the future, and I mean doing it late. So, in order for us not to keep putting them out late, by we I mean I, have decided that we're gonna do it without video for now on. I'm kidding. We discussed it. It's not necessary to do video. I assume most people just kind of put it on and listen to it as they, walk around. Or I'm gonna try to figure out how to get it onto iTunes or Castbox or whatever. But the video, the GoPro file is so large, and my computer sucks balls. So it takes.
My computer's not any better, probably. So.
Yeah, you don't have a Mac. I don't even know how you would do it.
Yeah.
But I have to go to my dad's and use his computer. And even with his computer, he has a brand new desktop Mac, and it takes me 6 hours to do.
Yeah.
It's like 45 minutes to upload the GoPro video to the computer, maybe half hour, 40 minutes to actually edit the video, get the audio and the video lined up, put the pictures on, make it fancy, find a quote, do all that stuff. Well, not always find a quote, we alternate. Mm-hmm. But and then another hour, 45 minutes to export the video, and then another 45 minutes to an hour to upload it to YouTube. It's like,
it's a long time.
It's not worth it.
It's a lot of work.
I did the audio one.
I didn't realize how much you had to do to get those things up there, man.
It's frustrating. So this one I put up today.
Mm-hmm.
It took 2 hours on my shitty computer, and it's on YouTube, but the video is just the FTO logo. So there's no video to it.
Okay.
But whatever.
maybe we should find another medium, like that we could also just upload audio.
That's what I mean. I was telling you about iTunes, right?
Oh, right.
I don't know all the criteria, but there is criteria. You have to have one episode posted on a blog website, and some other things. You have to send them in the thumbnail and whatnot. You have to get it approved. You can't just post it.
Right.
But yeah, we'll get it soon, because there's no real convenient way to get the audio from YouTube. So unless you're listening to it at home, we're not important enough to use data to listen to our podcast.
Mm-hmm. That's why I was like, maybe YouTube's not the best to put audio files.
Dude. So we were playing around at the beginning with the audio.
Mm-hmm.
I think my mic is actually too loud now. Does that sound better?
This one.
Just turn the gain down a little bit.
How do I sound? I think I sound.
You're fine.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm stopping myself from talking because there's too much gain.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll find out after when we record 2 hours and it's too late. Okay. Is that it for business?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, we do want to get that third mic going. We do want to start having people on here.
Yeah.
That would be very cool, because initially I just wanted a couple episodes just to ourselves, just to get the flow of it and the hang of it. But I think it's starting to kind of just be a little bit more natural, right?
And already I've changed my mind on what we were talking about yesterday. Yeah. When you were saying it might be a lot different without the video. Mm-hmm. I was thinking no, it's probably not. It's still just us in a room, but I'm already way more comfortable not having the video.
Yeah.
Not that I'm particularly self-conscious. It's just my focus isn't being directed to the fact that we have a video. Mm-hmm. So it kind of allows me to be more present with it. It
Yeah.
really feels more like we're just having a conversation.
Yes, yes. It just almost like you guys get to experience the closed behind doors conversation because we know we're not being viewed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what it feels like to me. I don't know. I used to work in collections. I remember it just was a lot easier to tell people to give you money over the phone. You know, it just was felt a lot less personal. It was very impersonal. You know,
Mm-hmm.
just over the phone and just audio. So I guess in this way, I mean, we want to interact with the audience, but we want to give you the most us feel. But that can
Yeah.
only really happen when we don't feel like we're being watched, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense.
Yeah, it feels less like a
Yeah.
performance.
Mm-hmm. I
Sorry,
feel like
these-
I feel like I don't have to perform.
we gotta figure out noise things.
Yeah,
So
like
one, our
everything's
coffee, I'm
catching.
trying so hard not to move my spoon.
Every
my
time,
coffee,
yeah, every
and
time,
these chairs squeak.
every time I'm drinking coffee, I know making noise.
But we have to turn the gain up really high on the mics because people have been telling us the volume sucks. Which on the first episode for sure it did. It improved a little bit, but when I like the most recent one I just put up, the volume is at 400% on the iMovie
Oh,
thing.
damn.
So this should be good though. This is significantly higher.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you notice, it's way louder this time, and the volume on our headphones is actually down.
Really,
Yeah. So
I'm hearing myself like crispy clean.
yeah. Do you know what gain does?
I guess it just allows more feedback or like.
I
More
don't know what
sound.
it is.
I don't know.
But this is what
it just sounds-
happens when you turn the gain down on my microphone.
Yeah,
And this
then
is what happens when you turn the gain
it-
up on my
yeah,
microphone.
it almost sounds like I can hear me more.
Yeah. You hear like I don't know what the definition is, but
Yeah,
you can
the-
hear like the static air in the room when you turn the gain all the way up.
Do you think that's how they use like audio equipment to like detect spirits? Because they do those things. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
No.
Like no, like I'm sure like they use like video and audio and like magnetic resonance and like those things to like because like it
Like a
is-
metal detector.
Yeah,
type thing.
yeah, and just it kind of like gives you a reading of like just random readings in like a space, and then that's how you know it's like a paranormal activity.
What the fuck?
Right. Yeah, like I used to be into a lot of like, I don't know, growing up I liked like horror and like scary things, you know. It was always a thrill. So,
Yeah, I'm too cynical for that stuff.
yeah.
Like, I was talking with somebody about haunted houses recently.
Oh, yeah.
A couple of the girls at school.
Mhm.
I was like, I'm the worst person to go to a haunted house with because I'm completely unaffected, and like, if you're unaffected by it, it's so obvious what's about to happen. Like, okay, you go around the corner, expect something to be there, and then you look around and you see doors and shit. It's like, okay, they're probably gonna open. Like, there's nothing to it. You just walk through and it's like, okay, something's coming there, something's coming there, something's coming there. You know, once in a while maybe you get like a half like kind of scare, but like it's so obvious when you go through them.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever tried going to like when you were like in high school or whatever? Ever tried going to like a haunted house or like an abandoned house with with your friends? I visited like I think two. There was one like that was like middle of nowhere, man. We parked at a church parking lot that was like it was like all just woods. And then we walked like 5 minutes down the road and we made a right into the like the woods, and we just walked for 15 minutes into this space where they just had a house, and it was just like abandoned and like it was weird. It was
See, that's-
eerie. It was
that's
eerie.
scary.
Yeah, that's eerie,
That's
right?
terrifying.
Yeah, and we walked in and like we're just seeing like all these like graffitis, like empty beer bottles everywhere, and like maybe they have parties in there, you know, like some people. And then there was a basement, and like there was this upstairs, and like we just never checked out any of the rooms, but it was just like it gives me the creeps, you know.
Yeah, that's terrifying. But that's real.
Okay.
That's creepy.
But that like wouldn't you
Knowing
think?
that there's people being hired to scare me does not.
Oh,
creep
like
me
those
out.
haunted houses. I thought you wanted because it's like real haunted houses, right?
Oh no
like-
no! I'm talking about like the
Like
scare
the
rooms
yes.
or whatever.
I've seen. I went to one like not even near Halloween, and it's pretty it's like a waste of your money. Feels like
Yeah.
it's like a cheap thrill.
Yeah. The only time I went was in high school, but that's just because you're a little bitch, and when girls want to do things, you just pay outrageous amounts of money to satisfy them.
Yeah, this is true.
That's pretty much it. Uh, Jimmy, life is good. Woke up today feeling great.
Woke up today,
Once again.
did my Wim Hof breathing. Then I went jump in the cold shower today. I find that when I do it in the first thing in the morning, like very first thing, like today I didn't do it as a very first thing.
Shower or breathing? Or do you do them always together?
Always together. I always do the breathing and then the shower. I always do the breathing and then, I do the breathing once in a while, like if I'm in the car driving to work, let's say, and I got like 10 minutes there, you know?
Sorry, I'm listening. That cracking, I kept thinking it was your chair.
I think
It's the fire.
it's the fire, right?
Do you think that's terribly annoying?
Could be.
It's warm in here. I can just put the fire out.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's do that. Jimmy, keep me company for a couple minutes. Well, actually, you can keep telling your story because I'm right here.
Yeah, so what I haven't lost the story there.
Cold showers.
Cold showers.
Cold showers.
Right, cold showers. So I feel like when I am doing the breathing and the cold shower, the very moment I wake up, the cold shower is a lot more excruciating. It's just a lot more unbearable. And like just the first few like bit, right? But like today and yesterday, it wasn't the first thing I did. Like the first thing I did was like I woke up and there was like breakfast. So I had breakfast first instead, you know? Like
Way better than cold shower.
yeah, it's way better than a cold shower,
I'm
right?
gonna go get like a bucket of water. So
All right.
rolling.
So this is the first time I've been alone with this podcast. I feel like I left Matt alone with the podcast for a bit. So yeah, doing the breathing. I feel like what that does for the start of your whole day is that it just allows your body to start, like it's already decreasing stress to begin with. And you know, when you're sleeping, in certain positions you're in when you're sleeping, you might actually not be getting the best breathing mechanic or the deepest breath you can take. So when you wake up, you might actually be more like out of breath, or like you've just been in a compromised position. So like breathing could be the best way to wake up. Did you guys hear that sizzle? That's a nice noise.
Now I gotta throw all that wood out, but or just let it dry. But
So yeah, breathing to wake up. That's one thing I always tell my clients to do. Never the cold shower though, because I know nobody wants to do them. But I can guarantee you it's the best way to wake up. You have so much energy for the whole day. Like you feel like it's because you start your day facing something you don't want to do. Like that makes the whole day so much easier after that, you know? Like you already kind of like went through like something that you don't want to do, and it's just, and you know, and oddly enough, that thing you didn't want to do actually gives you a benefit, you know, it gives you a huge boost of energy for the whole day, right? And you agree with that, Matt, right? Because you do it too.
yeah, who is it that is it? It's not Aubrey Marcus. Somebody, I can't think of who it is that introduced me. Oh, Tate Fletcher. Do you know who Tate Fletcher is?
Tate Fletcher, no.
He ex MMA fighter.
Mm-hmm.
He's buddies with Joe Rogan. He owns a coffee company now. He's an actor.
Okay, cool.
He posted a while back. He always talks about it, about doing something that makes you feel uncomfortable every day.
Mm-hmm.
And since he told me that, I've been working on putting it into my routine. And the cold shower was the thing that I realized. Like,
Yeah.
that's it. Because you can do it every day. There's never an excuse
Yeah,
that
it's
justifies
very-
not doing it. Unless
very-
some crazy reason, you know, like you have I don't know, high blood pressure or something, and it's
yeah,
dangerous.
or like even when I one of the mornings I woke up with a sore throat and I still did the cold shower, and I can guarantee you that sore throat disappeared by the afternoon.
Yeah, it jumpstarts your immune system. It's better for you.
I was like, oh, no more sore throat.
Yeah.
So like even when you do feel like on those off days, like that's the day you need it the most.
Yeah. The one thing I have heard is that apparently you're not supposed to do it within an hour of exercise after, because it'll decrease your protein synthesis, your net protein synthesis.
Yes, I remember you telling me about this, because I told you that I used to take, this is something I used to do after like 2.5 to 3 hours of weight training. This is what I used to do. I used to take like just a shower to clean myself, and I go in the steam room for about 5 minutes, and then until like I couldn't bear it. So maybe it might be like 5 to 7 minutes, maybe sometimes 10 minutes, who knows, right? And then I would take a really cold shower for a really long time after. And like you told me, and then you mentioned that cold showers are not that effective after like an exercise.
Well, that's what you explained is twofold.
Yeah.
Because conversely,
yeah,
heat exposure after the workout actually increases your net protein synthesis.
Okay.
So it works by, it doesn't increase your synthesizing of protein, it decreases your degradation of protein. So your net protein synthesis is higher.
Okay.
So that's heat after exercise. Cold does the opposite after exercise. So not only that, if you give yourself heat therapy, so if you go in the sauna and your body temperature goes up, that's the stress response, right? Now, the benefits of that come in the time after, when your body's saying we have to adjust to this being this hot. If you jump in the cold, the effects of the heat exposure become nullified now.
Yeah.
Because you cooled yourself down.
Exactly.
Your body doesn't need to release anti-inflammatory proteins and all that stuff. The heat shock proteins and that whole cascade of health benefits. And you don't get the benefits of the cold because you were hot. So let's say you were at a heat number of 100, right? Just to explain numerically, that's where you were in the sauna, right? And then you gave yourself a cold that had a value of 100. Well, now you're just at neutral. Because all you did was go from hot back to normal. So you didn't even go into the range where cold would help.
But do you think that the nervous system feeling the change in temperature, do you think that does any kind of stimulating response in
Some
any way?
people really like it. People really like the hot, cold.
Yeah, it's just because I feel like for me it was like I just did it because it just kind of was like a nice way to like just kind of cool off from an exercise, right? And like I just felt like, but that's what I mean. Like, because remember there was we had a talk with Alan, one of the teachers, right? And he's a chiropractor, and he was talking about using ice during inflammation and so on. And we were having like a debate. It was like you were kind of against it, and there was somebody else against ice. And I remember like I remember.
Well, it was less. Sorry, just completely cut you off. Just to clarify, it's less of a debate for me because I'm also fairly inconclusive.
Okay.
What I've found is inconclusive so far, but I don't use it because it hasn't been proven that it is good, but it also, I don't know if it is bad or not.
I think you and I agreed on that compression is the most important after an injury first, right? Like not the ice, because a lot of people think it's the ice that's important, but I think it's the compression, because like if people don't know like very, very fundamental basic physiology and like the immune system response, it's when you're hurt, inflammation actually triggers healing processes, and it tells the body to do the healing process. So that's why some people are against using ice after an injury, and I feel like some people don't know that.
Well, let's lay out get a little bit more in depth on the inflammation response.
Okay.
So obviously it's involved with swelling, right?
Yes.
That's the increased blood flow to the area, right? But why that blood flow is increased is so the body can deliver histamines, macrophages, right? White blood cells, parts of the immune system that are responsible for clearing up damage, right?
Yes.
And the idea behind ice is that, okay, I'll explain something else. If, let's say you hurt your knee and it swells, right? Like really swells. The idea is that there's so much swelling that the blood flow can't move through the tissue. So it stops, the healing process is actually not working. And because you have all these macrophages around, that they'll eat too much tissue. So macrophages are just macro, big, phagy is eating. So they eat up dead particles around the area. So that's why people think ice will work, because it will limit the amount of swelling and edema in the area to allow proper blood flow. But the problem is ice also cuts off the blood flow, right? Blood vessels will vasoconstrict in the cold. So that's where, when we talk about compression, the idea behind that is that you're still allowing the swelling into the area, but you're not allowing the swelling to get out of control mechanically. Like literally, you're just not allowing space for swelling to happen. Therefore, the blood has to continue through. But it's really, it hasn't been elucidated either way.
Like it's one of those things where like people have just an opinion of their personal like take to it, and based on their experience with it, and like and like based on their knowledge too, and all those things. And this is also how you know that the part of the first, it's called RICE, right? Like rest, ice, compress, elevate. And like resting doesn't work, because then if you're resting, like you know, like it's to like resting not completely, you know, you have to give it still the adequate amount of movement that it requires in order for things to flush out. So the important thing about like the swelling, and you know how you talked about the immune system and all those important things, the macrophages, white blood cells, and but what's important is the lymphatic system, which is based on your, you know, muscular contractions. That's one of the ways it really moves around, like, which is like waste or like whatever.
It
like
pulls the extra fluid out,
or
that
the extra
blood, that the blood vessels can't.
Exactly.
Can't
So
handle the load of.
and like it's another system that's clearing waste. So if you're resting too much, you're not engaging that system either. And you have to move in order for that system to engage and allow natural process of like, it's like a mechanical pump, and it's, you know, it's only triggered by you actually moving, or another way would be like going to see a massage therapist or an osteopath and getting your lymph nodes drained, and you're getting lymphatic drainage, right?
Or even doing it yourself, right? Like I sprained my finger last week, and in terms of rest, like, okay, maybe the day of, like within 24 hours, you don't want to move too much because it's sore and you don't want to further damage it. But like right after that, it's as much movement as you can get through without further harming the tissue. So the first 2 to 3 days is just range of motion, just getting to the point right before it starts to hurt, keeping as much movement possible through the joint. And then after that, you want to start increasing. And you saw me all day. I was just had my imagine like pointing your finger out, taking your 3 fingers of your other hand and shoving your finger between those 3 fingers, right? So imagine a triangle of fingers around your finger pushing towards the knuckle. And I was doing that for days just to clear, keep the blood moving through that area. So I mean,
and allowing more drainage to happen so that it doesn't accumulate any like waste, and
you don't want to further damage.
And you're getting fresh, and that's how you keep getting more fresh supply of oxygen and nutrients, and allowing the healing process to expedite. So like it's weird, because like when you get hurt and you go to a doctor, that's not what they try to get you to do. They don't try to get your
ibuprofen.
They don't. It's bureaucratic response. It's like it's almost like they were told to do that by the pharmaceutical companies, right? So that they can make money. But it doesn't actually heal. It doesn't actually progress the healing process at all. Taking Advil, and it's just a masker. It just masks your symptoms, right? And I feel like and this also happened recently. I feel like they're really good at masking symptoms, and we always talk about the symptomology versus what was that again? It was
preventative healthcare versus symptomology. So we were kind of describing how the current hierarchy of the healthcare system is, with preventative healthcare at the bottom, which is like, personal trainers, movement coaches, nutritionists, or registered dietitians for the technical term. And then maybe above that you have like an RMT, and then maybe above that you have a physio, and then a chiro, and then an osteopath, and then you move your way up to a doctor, right? But if you look at the way that that's structured, the bottom is preventative. The top of that hierarchy is symptomology, and we were kind of discussing how it's really backwards in how if your goal is actually a healthy population and not making money, then that should be flipped. It should be priority number one.
Should be preventative care before. Don't let it happen.
And this isn't something to market ourselves, because this is where we are financially. We are in this business because this is what we believe helps people.
Yeah.
It's not that we were here and then said, okay, how do we make money? Oh, let's tell everybody this is super important. It's like,
no, but this is how if you invest your money into yourself today to prevent something happening in the future, that's a pretty smart move. That's an investment. It's just like a financial investment. When you're like, if I put $1,000 in like 10 years, if I get like 5 back, sure, why not? Right?
And at the individual level, and civilization, like country level. Am I missing the word I need there? Like, it doesn't just save money for the individual.
Yes.
Like the whole economy will be better if people are working on preventative medicine.
There is a negative economic impact from all the obesity that we face, because it's a precursor to diabetes, heart disease, stroke, possibly cancer. Like, it's a whole list of things that everyone's dying from, like
terrible diet,
common
lack of activity.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like we already know the answer to the problem. No one's just doing it. No one wants to take the responsibility, so they shove it onto somebody else, and they're like, okay, so we'll make money off of you. We'll just give you drugs, and then that's what. And I think that's what happened, right? It's just like it's almost went both ways. I sometimes feel like it's not only did the drug companies take advantage of like people who are in pain and all that. It just those people also just wanted an easy way out. You know,
it's a systemic issue of perpetual convenience. That's how most people in North America live their life.
And convenience is why everyone's overweight. If that's got to be for sure, because if your mindset was set on convenience, you would not take that like 10 minutes to go walk somewhere, or you know what I mean, or like make sure you're kind of moving around. And like it's all about convenience. It really.
Sorry.
Yeah, no.
It's a larger problem than that too. It's not just like you're lazy so you don't walk to the store, but it's the reason for a lot of anxiety, and it's the reason why you're talking about why doctors push pills. It's like the people, we have this idea of if you don't have symptoms, then you're healthy. So then when you get symptoms, you're sick. Then what you do is just go to a doctor, they give you something, you take it home, and then you're better. It's like, that's literally how people view their health.
Yeah, and then going back to a patient client who was referred out to me from a chiropractor. Okay, so she's taking codeine, she's taking hydromorph, like she's taking morphine, and she's like, the pain is not going away. She's walking with a cane, and she comes in, she's like, yeah, like my pain is probably like somewhere from 8 to 10, depending on like how much movement I'm doing. But like 8 is her baseline pain, and like if she's like just walking, it's like a 10, So she's complaining all about her left hip. They do all kinds of imaging and everything, and everyone's looking at this left hip, and everyone's going like, you know what, you probably just have bursitis in your greater trochanter, like where the femur is. Right? And then and then she's gone to see a physio, she's gone to see a chiro, and they keep looking at this hip and they're not finding any answers. But she's saying she has pain that's radiating. She was pointing right at her SI joint. Fortin's finger, and then she's saying I have pain radiating to the front of her hip. So that's a type B, like, what is it? Like it's a type B pattern of SI.
Where does it radiate? Sorry.
To the front.
To the front.
Yeah. And to the side.
And to the side.
Yeah, and she's pointing at her. She's pointing at her SI. I'm like,
B.
wow, that's a. So then I start testing it, right? I'm like, okay, so let me just do 3 tests. Let me do 3 tests that will provoke the pain, and if they all provoke pain, it means that SI is pretty out of whack, right? So I did the.
Let me guess.
Yeah.
Thigh thrust.
Yeah.
Gainslands?
No, not Gainslands. I just simple. I did SI approximation, thigh thrust, and what is it? The rocking test too. Yeah, I did that, and they were all like, yeah, I feel something, right? And then so I'm like, okay, and then I just dermatomed her. I just checked her. So she had really weak L2, L3, L4 actions, especially on her left side, right? And then like so all the symptoms are coming up her left, and everyone's focusing on her left, and I'm like, okay, I will treat your left side, but I can guarantee you it is not that side, and I know no one has looked at that side to make sure this side's gonna feel better. And they were like, yeah, no one's even looked at my right hip. I'm like, I'm gonna do it after I do your left hip. So when I'm treating her left hip, all she's complaining, even as I'm treating her, she's like, ow, that hurts. And I'm like, is it sharp? And she's like, yes, it's sharp. And when it's sharp, I go, okay, I have to back out. She's either guarding or something's not correct. Like I cannot proceed with the treatment if it's sharp pain.
To cut in, just so people who don't know what SI is, it's the sacroiliac joint. So that's where your sacrum
sits between two of your
between the hip bones.
Yeah.
So that if you have the big crest on top of your hip, that bone there has a small joint that attaches to the sacrum, and it's a problematic area of the lower back.
Mm-hmm. It's very, very. It often gets very, like, it gets almost like different feeds from all kinds of different like muscles and it's just like
there's very little movement.
Yeah.
In it. There's a ton of muscles that cross it.
Yeah.
But no muscles that act on it.
Yeah, exactly.
No muscles that attach to it, but a ton of muscles that act on it.
Yeah.
It's hard to diagnose the problem with it because the joint has such little movement.
Yeah.
It's such a small area.
Yeah. So it's a very, very sensitive area, I guess. And so I do the left side. And then I get her off the table. I'm like, walk for me. I'm like, did it do anything? She's like, nope. I'm still feeling just the same thing. I'm like, okay, come back on the table. Now let's do everything on the right side. And you know what I did? I didn't even like fully treat the right side. I just did like a very gentle like couple stretch on the right side. And I'm like, walk for me. She's like, I think it's starting to feel a little better. And then so I do a second round of the same thing, but a little bit more like deeper into the stretch. And then she gets off the table and she's walking and she's like, honestly, I still feel the pain, but it's not even close to what it was when I walked in here. And then I did the third round of treatment and she's like, okay, I don't think it's getting that much better, but like, I definitely don't think I need to use my cane right now. My pain feels like it's a 5 out of 10. And then I asked him like, so no one ever looked at that right hip thinking that it caused something. So this is what doctors do. They focus so much on the symptom that they start to, it clouds their judgment. They don't even know where they're looking because they focus so much on where the pain is. But it's like, okay, what's the actual root cause of that pain? Is that where that is, or is it from somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So like it was just crazy how all these experienced 20 years into their like field chiropractors and like physios couldn't figure that out. It just kind of blew my mind. I was like, what's happening here? Like, why are people getting not good treatment and care? You know, like it seems like people don't have it's just like they're not updated anymore, and like they just kind of lose like it's like they stopped educating themselves, and then that's impacting everyone else's like quality of care, right?
Yeah. And going back to what we were talking about with the convenience, there's actually systematic barriers that they shackle our doctors to the point where they become marionettes to where they can only do a couple movements within their job. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you a couple examples. One example is that if, let's say, you're on statins, right, for cholesterol, which is arguably extremely overprescribed. From my understanding, they're effective for a very small percentage of people, but I won't go into how statins actually work. For one, I don't understand it fully, and two, it's a lot of stuff I don't want to talk about right now. But if you're my patient and I'm a doctor and you're on statins and you come to me and I say, listen, I don't think you're somebody who needs statins. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to prescribe you a diet, and I'm going to send you to this person for an exercise routine, and we're going to start taking you off the statins. By the way, most likely, from my understanding, this will make you much more healthier than if you have a shitty diet and take statins. Assuming that you even needed statins in the first place. If you recall my last conversation about cholesterol, you might know why that's relevant, because just because somebody has high LDL cholesterol, it doesn't mean that they're at risk for heart disease or atherosclerosis or any of that. But if I prescribe that to you and take you off statins and by chance you have a heart attack, I'm liable. So we literally have it written into our legal system that doctors cannot take people off medications in order to prescribe diet and exercise. So there's one.
Do you think that's lobbied? Do you think that was lobbied by pharmaceutical companies or whatever?
Could be. I have no idea. I don't know how it's written into the law.
Yeah, because that would be pretty damn. That sounds pretty damn skewed.
Yeah, I just know I learned it about that in university. And here's another thing that somebody was telling me recently that I don't want to say who it is. They know somebody who is a doctor and who was basically saying, if I had the choice not to be a doctor, if I could do it again, I would not be a doctor, because his hands are always tied. So, you know when you go to a doctor and you start talking and they cut you off? They're always cutting you off. They're telling you like, no. They're trying to keep going. The way it was explained to me is that it's another legal issue. You're talking to me and you're telling me, okay, I got pain in my hip, and it bugs me. It's kind of rough in the morning, and okay, stop. So you pain your hip. I'm trying to stop you from talking. The next thing you were gonna say was, I'm tired all the time. So you told me I'm tired all the time. Now, being fatigued often, that's a symptom, right?
That's a huge symptom.
If you tell me I'm tired all the time, I have a legal obligation to look into that and try to figure out why that's relevant. So the reason that doctors shut you up all the time is because if you say something, they are obligated to investigate why that's relevant. So once again, if Jimmy says I'm tired all the time, I don't know what it is, and the doctor's kind of like, yeah, maybe you need more sleep or something like that. And it turns out that, what's a good disease that makes you tired all the time?
Well, you were saying
turns out
cancer.
Jimmy has
cancer could be
cancer
one.
could do it.
Cancer could definitely cause
Crohn's,
lethargy.
Right?
Okay.
Crohn's or something like that. Crohn's causes chronic fatigue, right?
It could.
Right?
It definitely could.
I could have that wrong. I don't know much about it. Anyways, let's say something happens to Jimmy.
Yeah.
If I didn't investigate when he told me I'm tired all the time, I'm also liable. So doctors have the legal yardstick halfway up their ass all the time. And that's one of the systemic problems with our legal healthcare system, is that
I agree.
This Alan gave me a really good word for it. I can't remember what it is, but people who sue all the time.
Oh, right.
I can't remember what that word is. It's a cool word. But this thing where everybody can sue everybody for everything it's just handcuffed a lot of people to where they can't do their job properly. And this is one of the reasons why I like doing what I'm doing right now, is because we have free reign right now. It'll be a little different once we're actually within the college of the CMTO for massage therapy. There's a few things we have to follow, but the thing is because we're also certified in the strength and conditioning personal trainer area, we can always just throw that hat on, and now all of a sudden our legal liability kind of goes away because it's not as important. And it's not that we're trying to say here like, oh, we don't care about hurting people. It's not. It's just the
and
health is not as simple as going to the doctor when you're sick and getting a pill. It takes a lot of investigation, a lot of information, and health professionals don't always get it right. It's like anybody else. We understand it's serious when you come with a problem, but you can't expect them to always get it right. Just like you go to McDonald's and somebody once in a while is going to fuck up your order because people make mistakes. But if you don't allow people to make mistakes with it, we're not going to improve the way that we give population-wide healthcare. And I don't mean pushing pills on people and giving them flu shots. I mean teaching people how to actually take care of their own body. And that's something that maybe, I don't know, we haven't really talked too much about it, but maybe with your Korean background, I don't know if it encompasses a lot of the same philosophies as like Chinese medicine and things like that.
Oh yeah,
but
like
are there any differences in that style of healthcare that you think would be beneficial and actually could work in North America?
I have not that much knowledge about the Korean healthcare, to be fully honest with you. But however, I do know in their culture, they have a cultural. I'm sure every culture does, but they like really seek out for the next new thing in health. Almost, it's just like something that will make that, and like so, like they like in South Korea, like Stuart McGill. I don't know if you know who he is, and like there's like a Craig Levinson, like they're very well known in like the movement field, and like so they go over there to have seminars because there's enough population there that's interested enough about that stuff there too, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe in that sense, it's just like, oh, that's very cool. Like they don't go over all around the world, right? They go to certain places in the world where they have some sort of attraction, value to them, right? So, but I do know, and they do they have different alternative outlook to medicine because it's not about treating the symptom for them. I think they try to think about the whole body, like especially in like just because like in China too, their medicine is like they have a traditional medicine, which is all based on just herbs and plants, and like they have, and I remember watching a documentary on this one doctor who knew like that was passed on to by his father. He just would walk out into the wild in China and like all these like slopes and like mountains and stuff, and he'd be just collecting all these things, and he knew how to prepare them, and then like he would just have in his home like large quantities of all this stuff, and he knew exactly what they did and how much someone needed to treat cancer, to do this or that, for a bowel problem, for a heart problem, for a heart pressure problem, or like like he just knew all these things and it worked, and all these people like it's almost like those things are actually real too.
Yeah, it sounds like some elvish medicine from like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
no,
but like where do you think those ideas actually originated from? It's just like like that those things are just like you put a fantasy twist to it, but like it derived from something real. Like those things aren't far off from what it's the Mordor is just a volcano. Like we have volcanoes, and like. So it's just like those two worlds, in fact, are probably not that far off from each other in like terms of plants and herbs, and I don't see why we can't like just how like cleaners too, like how you can use like chemical cleaners, or there's organic derivatives that actually do the same job, but it doesn't actually have any chemical effect negatively on the environment, yourself and your home or wherever your workspace is. So why can't we do that with medicine? Why can't we try to look out plant derivatives or like herb derivatives of like lowering cholesterol levels instead of making a goddamn chemical in a lab and being like, this is good for your liver, take it. Not really, because any pill is probably bad for your liver because it has to be detoxed, right? So it's just like it's a wrong approach. It's like you're telling people to get healthy but selling them drugs. You got to sell them. Ching. Exactly. It's literally they're actual drug dealers. They're the real drug dealers.
You think legal drug dealers.
You think drug dealers are the ones that are selling cocaine and meth? The biggest drug dealers are the ones that are in your homes, in your cabinets, in your drug drawer, in the drug like whatever like storage you got. Those are your drug dealers, man. Like people don't get that, right?
Yeah.
Holy shit! I think
That's really raining.
yeah, I
It's
think
kind
it's
of
just
nice. It's like,
yeah,
it's like doing a podcast with like some meditation music.
yeah, it actually is.
But another point on that Chinese medicine, here's
Yeah.
another thing that I don't know if a lot of people know about
Mhm.
is one of the things. So let's say you get diagnosed with like a chronic disease or something.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things they do in like traditional Chinese medicine is they go to your house and they look at the state of your house.
Oh damn, that's pretty
They'll
smart.
ask about your family, like your relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and they go to your house and look. Is it clean? Is it messy? Is it sanitary? Not in the sense of like us, where you're gonna put Purell on everything.
Yeah.
Like, are you dirty?
Yeah.
Is there chaos in
Mhm.
your environment, or the opposite? Are you too orderly? Are you tyrannically orderly to where that you everything in your house has to be exactly perfect? Like, they understand that there's no disconnection between all of the things that make you a human being, whether
Yeah.
it's your psychology, your diet, your exercise,
Mhm.
your body, your
Like,
organs, your
those are
mental state.
those are all just the different facets of health. And you know, like it's not that they're separate from each other. They're all a domain of its own that correlate with each other, and they have to be harmonized in each different way with a different, you know, one affects the other, and then that has an indirect effect on it's just so interlinked that you have to take them into consideration. And like
First,
yeah
I'm going to grab us a beer,
okay
and then I'm going to explain to you how this is relevant in my life right now.
okay beer time. Sold me on 4 grams of carbs on this bad boy.
Michelob Ultra,
Yeah.
It's- truly an exceptional light beer. That's the motto, but
Yeah.
they're not lying. Like, it's a light beer that tastes like a light beer. Like, the other one is Sleeman Clear, which is not bad, but it's basically piss water. Cheers, my man.
This word, cheers.
Yeah, speaking of health, let's get some dirty alcohol in us. So-
It's light. It can't be that dirty.
We're talking about the inseparable nature of your psychological state and your physical state, or more importantly, your environmental state. So, if you're somebody who follows Jordan Peterson, then you understand the meme of like clean your room, right? So the idea is that there may not be a distinction between your psychological state of being and your physical. So if, let's say, there's clutter in your room, you can make the argument that there's no difference between that clutter and the clutter in your mind, right?
Mhm.
And it's a very abstract thought, and it's hard to understand until you do it. You clean your room.
Yes.
But
You have to experience
something-
it yourself. Right. That's
when when you do it, I've done it voluntarily, and it's great. It made me feel good. But what really said it to me was when I didn't notice I was doing it. So the other day, Jimmy and I were having a conversation, and Jimmy went off on this absolutely beautiful astrological trip of philosophical explanation, and called me out on a lot of my shit, particularly just like I'm trying to control the outside world by like, it's an arrogant thing, and it's an impatience thing where I'm like suffocating people around me. I'm not letting them have space to do their thing. I'm criticizing too much, and I'm a whole bunch of things that I've been doing wrong in my life, and I never noticed that was the part of why I was a little hectic in my mind. Anyways, that's not the point. The point is that the day after, I also was at the hunting store, the what do you call it? Hunting outfitter store, Erie Tracker in Port Colborne. And there's this cute girl there that I was kind of shooting with, and I felt like a huge pussy because I didn't get her number. And that was
Excuse me.
eating at me all night, right? Like I was messaging you, talking to you about it. And it's not like this thing where, oh my God, she's so amazing. Like, I can't believe I'm never going to see her. It's like, it had nothing to do with her. I just felt like a big pussy because I know that I was a cowardly when I did it. So the next day, first of all, that night, Jimmy and I were going to hang out, and I said, no, I got to go for a run. And I went for a run. It's a very effective method for me to clear my mind and meditate on things. And then the next day, I was looking for a spot in my room to put my bow. And within 10 minutes of trying to do this, everything in my room was in a pile in the middle of the floor. I sent Jimmy a picture of it. And I just started reorganizing everything. But in the midst of doing that, like before I put everything back, I just kind of pulled everything away from the walls, the shelf, all the bags that were there, piled them, and like started from scratch. And I didn't notice I was doing it. And then I messaged Jimmy like, I guess this is really a bigger issue than I thought of, because I just, without thinking, I just started cleaning and reorganizing and revitalizing my room. And it's amazing now. There's so much more space in my room, which is not ironic. Coincidentally, is exactly what Jimmy is telling me that I don't do, is leave enough space. And I started cleaning my car, and I cleaned the kitchen, and like I could literally feel my anxiety start to diminish as I cleaned things up around me. And it's not that my room was particularly dirty or anything like that. It was just I instinctively started reorganizing things in my physical life 100% because of the state of my psychological my psychological state. It's such a weird thing when you actually understand like these parts of our being, psychology and the body and social relationships and familial relationships. There's no distinction between them.
And to see that there's no distinction between them is to not be stuck and separating them in your head. Don't compartmentalize friends and family and work and school and this and that. It's all really the same thing, you know. And then if you understand that they're all the same thing, it means you're kind of approaching them all with the same sort of attitude, right? And you know, like you don't try to seek out comfort in one and then try to take advantage of the other, and then you don't, you know, it's just they are all just the same thing to you. You know, you treat them all equally because you start to see the humanity behind all of it, right? Instead of going like, oh, like, you know, just getting, you know, like one thing that your friend can say to you, and if your mom says it to you, you have two totally different responses. And I know this because I would too, right? But to try to get to a point where it would have neither of them saying anything to you should have any effect. That would be truly having that no self and like understanding that you are not what you truly experience, and you're not like this, you know, like you're not what you develop yourself as an image as, you know, you're not like what you dress up
Your
as
persona.
your persona. And like people, it can be material, which is a really easy way to just kind of having someone exposed, because you know they're materialistic people that, you know, people often get like kind of be like, oh, I don't like materialistic people, like stuff like that. And then there is also like attachment to experiences or pleasure, you know, and that can be like any of the sins, greed, lust, envy, jealousy, gluttony, wrath, yeah, stuff like that. So those are, you know, if you automatically have a response in life to any of those kind of sins, it means you're reacting, and you know that reacting becomes almost the same as an addiction, right? If your reaction is any of those just mentioned, you know, if your reaction is to do this or that at a certain point in your life, then it just but if you didn't have a self, you wouldn't have to react to any of those things, really.
Well, yeah, that makes me think of the Mesopotamian hero myth. Can I tell you a little story?
Yes.
So, basically what I'm going to do is just parrot Jordan Peterson, but it's gonna sound really cool. Just kidding. One of the Mesopotamian myth of Marduk, right? Have you heard this before?
I
Marduk
feel like
and Tiamat.
the names came up a lot when Jordan Peterson talked. So
the story starts out with these various demigods, right? So they're going to be the gods of, it's like Mercury, Venus, all those. The gods of Mercury is the angel of the fleeting angel or whatever. It's like represents interest, right? There's a mind-blowing philosophy on why Harry Potter is chasing the golden snitch based on that. That's Mercury, right? Venus is the goddess of love, right? There's love, there's lust, there's hate, there's anger, there's jealousy, and all these gods are living amongst one another. And the idea is that humans are the playthings of the gods, right? So what you're saying is, at this point, this is like, let's say, in the realm of unconscious at this point. So as a human, if you're the playthings of the gods, what's happening is that you're there's a bug right on my microphone.
It's pretty funny. It's been like crawling around all the cords and stuff.
Yeah.
Damn.
So when you think of the playthings of the gods, it means that you're not in control of your emotions. Your emotions are controlling you, right? You're a plaything for them.
You're reacting to them.
These gods are confronted with Tiamat. Tiamat is the dragon, right? Dragon, water creature, lives in the water, right? In the lives in the unconscious, also in the conscious realm, and has wings, and it's the classical dragon myth, right? The most worthy of opponents, let's say, or the thing that you know that you should fight, right?
Yeah.
You can go on forever explaining what the dragon is, right? But that's your adversity, let's say, in a nutshell. All of these demigods individually try to attack Tiamat, right? And they all fail. And they basically give up. What happens is Marduk comes along and basically agrees to go out and fight Tiamat. And he does it under...
Calls him out.
Let's go, bro. I think Tiamat is actually female because it's like Mother Nature as well, right?
Calls her out.
And so what Tiamat does is say, okay, I will go out and defeat Tiamat under one condition. If I'm successful, I will be the ruling god. So that's important. So what it's saying is, by defeating your dragons, you can gain dominion over your emotions, the demigods. You no longer are the plaything of the god because you transcend them. You become the leader of the demigods rather than being the plaything. And Tiamat has two traits. He's got eyes all the way around his head, right? So he pays attention. He sees what's happening, and he speaks magic words so he can articulate. And this is at least Jordan Peterson's interpretation of why it is. Of the two important things that he does. He pays attention and he articulates speech. And he goes out, defeats Tiamat, blasts her into a million pieces, and creates the world from her pieces. And then becomes the ruler of the world, right?
That's a sweet story.
So the part I really like about it, like, you can go into the hero myth part of it, where it's...
Because it sounded like a hero myth to me.
It is the hero myth. Like, you can say the part where you conquer adversity, but the part that I really like is that part about the demigods. And like, by going through that adversity, you can govern your emotions, because that's a big indicator, bringing it back to practicality and reality. Of one of the things I notice most about people I meet is whether or not they're volatile or not. Whether or not you're somebody who has dominion over your emotions, because that's like maybe the easiest red flag to see that somebody is not conscious. Is that
that's true.
Something happens and they make rash decisions, they get angry, they get jealous, and you can just tell they have zero control and zero awareness of themselves, right? But I love the idea that by putting yourself through this gauntlet of life and taking adversity head on, that you can make this contract that, like, yes, I'm going to go through this, and when I come out, I'm going to control you.
Yeah. That's like the best way to flex, because that's flexing your brain, you know. Like a lot of people don't think about it that way, but it's, you know, that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's because you're paying so much attention. Paying attention takes a lot of brain power just to be like, and I always tell people, I'm like, it's really not matter about what you're doing or why you're doing it or like where you're doing it, or it just matters how you're doing it, because that means you're really paying attention or you're not. You know, you can really, like, and I always say this quote, I'm like, you're seeing but you're not seeing, you're hearing but you're not really hearing, right? You're actually there but not really, you know, you're just going through the motion, let's say.
That's the Miyamoto Musashi concept of the twofold sight. There's seeing and there's perceiving. Seeing is using your eyes to see something.
Yeah.
Perceiving is being able to fill in all the gaps of why, what that means.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people live in this world and they just kind of put their minds on autopilot often, you know, and I feel like everyone should choose to, and that's why Matrix is such a good movie, because that's just analogies. Like, are you going to choose to still stay in a dream and stay in autopilot all your life and never follow the things that you really had passion for? Or are you going to wake up and face all the hardships? Because when you wake up, you're going to realize you just going to wake up and be like, where did I put my life in? You wake up to chaos, right? And you wake up to you're like, whoa, there's a lot of things I have to fix. And that's what Neo has to go through. He wakes up and he realizes they're getting hunted down by machines.
It's not the easy path,
yeah,
but it's the noble path.
Yeah, but it's the noble path, and like that's why he's a hero, and that's why he gains all this power, because he starts to become more. I think I don't know how the movie goes, but I'm pretty sure he becomes more like mentally, like stronger, and what that really it means is like he was becoming more present and more conscious and more of a individual with light that shines brighter, because, you know, he was trying to transcend his more than just his body and mind, right? And that's why it was really cool how they kind of computerized it, because he's able to see everything in reality as a code. Like he's seeing everything for what it is, like beyond just that's a cup. It's like seeing it for what is like numerical value and an atomical value of it is, right? So like that's a really cool concept, and I feel like people can get there. And like essentially, Neo is a cross reference to Jesus Christ or Buddha.
Yeah,
he was the coming of Christ or the coming of Buddha. That's pretty much what that was.
Yeah, I really like those movies, and there's so much overlap with mythology there.
Yeah,
like
it was a sweet movie. I almost want to watch it again.
Like I just thought of the part where Morpheus gets captured. And Morpheus is the archetype of the benevolent father in the Matrix.
Oh yeah.
And Neo has a choice whether or not to. He gets out. Remember, he's told that he would have to choose between his life and Morpheus's life when he goes to the Oracle, and he gets out of the Matrix and realizes that Morpheus got captured, and he has the choice to go back into the underworld to save his father. Right, like. Pinocchio goes into the belly of the whale. Simba has to go out into the desert to save his father. And, you know, like this archetype of that's an Egyptian archetype too, right? Of Horus going into the underworld to save Osiris, which is his father, who was killed by Set. Set is the tyrannical father figure. Osiris was the willfully blind but benevolent father, and Horus has to go save him. Right? It's like. That gives me goosebumps, like when you start to watch these hero myths, and you just pull out all of the archetypal factors of the movie. And like really interesting thing that I came across is Morpheus he's like it's a weird character. I can't figure out whether he's just the benevolent father or if he's part like Neo's conscience. I can't quite figure it out, but I was like, I wonder what Morpheus means, and I looked it up, and Morpheus is the Roman god for sleep. or the dream.
Oh shit.
Yes, which is very
So that's
interesting.
a very significant name that they use for that character. So
Right.
it must have a really big meaning to
It made me think of the thing.
It's a sweet name, Morpheus.
Wicked. Well, morphine, right? It makes sense why it would be the sleep or the dream, right?
Actually, yeah.
But it
Wow,
made me think of like
cross relation there. That's pretty good.
yeah, well, that's what kind of made me think of it. But it made me think about like who is it that talked about the dream? Was it Jung or Nietzsche that was really into the dream?
Jung was really into dream
Yeah,
representation.
yeah, he's the one that books about the man in his dreams, right?
Yeah, men as symbols.
Man and his symbols.
And like how dreams and everything that's in your dream is actually not face value; they're just symbols.
Right.
So like if you have,
Is that what that book's about?
Yeah, yeah.
I thought he also had a book about dreams.
Maybe he does.
I think he
like
does.
I don't know. Like I only read the first like maybe 50 pages of Man and His Symbols. It was very interesting. I wish I like that's something I definitely got to get back and read into because it was about like interpreting your dreams and like like it's like kind of like the Omen thing I told you about, right? Like when you see certain things that kind of stick out and like it's just like it felt like it had a meaning in your life. Like it's not coincidence. Like it just it has somewhere it has a value. Somewhere it means something. And that's what like the dreams are. It's like when you wake up and you remember a dream, it's just like what the hell was that? Like that makes no sense, right? But it actually it wasn't meant to make sense. It was like like if certain event and certain people that show up have a symbolic value to you. It could be like this certain woman that shows up in your life all in your dreams all the time, and it could represent your anima, like the animus or whatever, like the female figure that you just
Anima.
Yeah, whatever it is that you kind of represent as like the female part of your subconscious. If that's the same woman, and it could be your mom. It could just for some people it could just be their mothers, right? For that character. And so like if let's say your mother does something unacceptable, like kills like your pet, it's not that like you wake up and go like, why did my mom kill my pet? It's like why and what does your pet even symbolize to you? I don't know. It's very personal. Like who knows what a pet means to you, right? But like only you can really know, and that's how you actually try to interpret your dreams according to Jung. It's not like you don't go like that's a crazy dream. It's like, okay, what does that
Don't Google dream interpreter.
Yeah. Only you can know and understand your dreams, because what it means is your subconscious is telling you something. It's trying to relay a message to you, but it can only know how to do so through symbols and through when you wake up with a dream, it actually means something. You have to try to sit there and play that over your head and try to interpret what the symbols and the meanings were, not what they were for face value, not what they were for what the plot was. It was like what did the change of scenery mean? What did from going to environment of home to like school, let's say, right? Maybe like that's what some people's dreams changes sometimes, right? And like who was there? Like what did it feel like? Who was around you? Did it feel like friends and family? And like what happened? Like those are all like represent something. And they're all symbolizes a meaning to you that your subconsciousness is trying to tell you, and is trying to give you an answer to a problem that you don't know consciously. So when you understand your dreams, it means you know the true full self. You understand yourself at a deeper level, and then at a level where like you it's like a higher power too, right? Because you're tapping into your unconscious, not like by trying to control it, but by just understanding its symbols. Right. So yeah, that's a different way of like looking at your like life too. And then I always like that parallel. It's like, do you want to chase your dreams? But it means you're gonna have to understand your dreams, right? It means you're gonna have to understand your subconscious if you really want to go after your dreams and like conquer your dreams.
Yeah, it's not. I've started to pay attention to words like that. Real like things that people are. Things that are, what do you call them? Like cliches, like that, like chase your dreams. It's not an accident that we say chase your dreams, and that your dreams might be associated with your actual deepest desires. Like when we say chase your dreams, it doesn't mean think of something that would make you a lot of money and try hard to do it. It's what are you really passionate about? Okay, find a way to organize your life to exploit that passion. Not an exploit is not a good word. Harness that passion to aim at that target.
Yeah.
Right? And it's I never thought about that one in that cliche in particular, like follow your dreams. It's like that's what you're talking about, is until you don't know yourself until you can tune into that frequency
Yes.
of your subconscious, and you'll never understand it because it's too abstract for the conscious mind to really align with. I think it's like remembering a psychedelic experience. It's like you can pull lessons from it, but you can never live in that space or understand it, right?
It's trying to understand the deeper self. It's understanding not just what you think and what you like and what you like. It's a whole different, but like it's the cool thing is like everyone's looking to chase their dreams, but all that means is you just have to look inside, and there it is, and then that's the treasure, because that's all you needed to have in order to conquer the world. That's step one. Like, that's like the most important thing you must conquer. It's not the world, it's yourself first, and then the world comes second, because the world is yours the moment you conquer yourself.
Right. Well, that's the archetype of creating the world. So that's something in that Marduk story. He defeats Tiamat and makes the world out of it. So this is something a boy JP talks about all the time.
Boy JP.
That we're constantly in the act of creating the world, right? It's like we talk about the ripple effect, right? Something I say to you right now is going to directly affect how you live your life for the rest of your life. But in a more practical, that's a little bit like vast.
No, but butterfly effect. Butterfly
today,
effect.
Right?
Yeah.
If, let's say we went down a road and we got into an argument, that's going to affect how you interact with people for the rest of the day, and maybe tomorrow and the day after. But yeah, like you really do ripple. So when you have this, most people live under the impression that like I'm living my life and I'm not important enough to infect other people. Like I'm kind of worthless. I don't have any self-confidence. Like what can I do in this world?
I know,
right?
like,
but you will literally affect the entire world every single time, every second of the day. You are sending out ripples through time and space and making ungodly amounts of effects on the world.
Yeah.
You may not be able to measure it.
What was it, Jordan Peter? What was our boy JP said? It's if you know 7 people, you know the world, right?
Yeah, something like that.
So like
because each person knows 150 people or whatever it is.
And then and it turns out that if you know 7 people, you could technically be in contact with the rest of the world. So if you have family and you have a couple friends, you are pretty much, like the way you interact with them throughout the day is how it means that's what you're doing to the world.
It's
right?
You've watched the movie Pay It Forward, right?
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Right?
Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
Did you know he just got? What is it? Just got charged or accused of sexually assaulting a 14-year-old boy. Like years. Yeah, man. I
saw something.
Shit's getting really. It's getting like everyone's getting exposed in Hollywood right now for all the sexual assaults and abuse that happened in the past couple of years. Like it's getting really. It's like a witch hunt. And the reason why I say it's a witch hunt is the South Park made an episode about it, and it was pretty funny.
I don't catch up on that show, but it's so good. I wish I could. Fuck, he's good as shit in House of Cards, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
I don't know. I vaguely saw something about that. But the movie, you remember what it's about, right? The kid has a school project, and he creates a system called Pay It Forward, where if I do one nice thing for 2 people, and those 2 people, or whatever, one other person, and those 2 people do something nice for 2 people, and those 4 people do something nice for 8 people, and it spreads
Yeah.
exponentially. And that's it. It's not something that it doesn't have to be these grandiose ideas that people think of like that. Like, just, you walk by somebody on the street and there's always that awkward moment where it's like, are we supposed to smile? Are we supposed to make eye contact or whatever?
Yeah.
Just try looking up and smiling at somebody and
Yeah.
just pay attention. Don't try to go in there and say, I'm going to smile at this person and their day's going to be way better. Just pay attention. Just try it and see what happens. See what you feel like. Because I do it all the time. And it's always uncomfortable because we're so isolated nowadays.
Yeah.
And you see it in the other person, especially when it's somebody our age. Because people our age are in that weird space where we don't know how we're supposed to interact with people our age. Because we're almost still teenagers.
It's like they don't know how to be adults quite yet.
I think it goes back to like what we're saying about people feel like they're unimportant. We have a population of disenfranchised people, and it's because the values and the standards that we hold ourselves to are unrealistic. And it's cliche to say, and people talk about it all the time, but it's so important. It's not about going and making a lot of money and being super compassionate and being super intelligent and it's just about doing the small things right throughout a lifetime. Slowly get better and better and better every day, and that's how you influence the world for the good. I love the background on my computer right now is the Miyamoto Musashi quote. Today is your victory over yourself of yesterday. Tomorrow is your victory over lesser men. And it's not an arrogant statement. First of all, his disposition is towards a warrior, remember, right? So this is about winning in battle.
But everyone is a warrior, like everyone's got to see themselves as like that, because you can't, because life is hard, so you can't think about yourself as being like, oh, la-di-da, like, I'm not gonna face any conflicts, so shit's gonna be great all the way through the end. Like, no, like there's gonna be fights and battles, and there's gonna be times you're gonna have to make a stand, and you're gonna have to believe in it, and you're gonna have to convince other people. That's a fight. That sounds like a fight to me. You're gonna have to be a warrior for that. You're gonna have to be prepared, right? So
and
like
that's
right. So everyone's gonna see themselves in a way of like being able to be an individual that can, as Jordan Peterson would say, speak their being forward. It doesn't have to be in any sort of violent way. It can be being able to be present, see all the things, be present, and be able to, like, what was it, like Marduk? Like
Marduk.
Yeah, like speak well and be present.
Attention.
Yeah, pay attention.
Tell the truth.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Speak with confidence. It's not about being right. Nobody knows what the fuck they're talking about. We're all on this fucking gigantic rock that's actually not that big, getting blasted at 550,000 kilometers an hour through infinity, okay? Anybody who thinks they know what the fuck is going on,
okay, yeah, they're
bullshit.
Yeah, it is absolutely bull poop.
The best you can do is put yourself out there, like you're saying. Speak what you actually believe to be true. It doesn't mean that you know what truth is.
Yeah.
It just means you're not lying. You're putting yourself out there to be it's one of the largest acts of courage that you can do is to speak your mind, because you're vulnerable. You're putting yourself out there, your real beliefs, and saying, hey, what do you guys think of this? And 90% of the time, people are going to shit on you and put you down.
Yeah.
You know why? They're probably right. Or at least a proportion of what they're saying is right. So even if they're mostly wrong, and they say 100 things that are wrong about what you said, but they say one thing that's right, and that's the one thing that that one thing you can change. It doesn't matter that they were wrong about all the other stuff. If they were right about that, change that. But you need to put yourself out there. You need to not be afraid to be the fool.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Jordan Peterson talks about, is the fool being the precursor to the hero. I love the idea. It's that
You have to.
you will never be the hero if you don't have the courage to look like an idiot in the process of trying to do it.
Yeah, and you know what? That's absolutely true. Like, like you have to you have to realize that you have to stay humble. You have to feel humiliated. Humiliation is really, really, really it's another thing to test your resilience.
Right.
So like it's like you want to get humiliated, and then you want to keep doing it. And if you have that drive, that means you're in it for real.
I never noticed how close the words humility and humiliation are together.
Oh yeah, no, they're yeah, it's like, and humbleness, and like they're all, like, I feel like a synonym to me. That's how I view them, because it's, if you can just understand to be a better person after being, like, humiliated and humbled, and try to look for the truth, it means you're absolutely doing the right thing, and it's hard to do that, because oftentimes you get caught up in your idea of yourself, and then you want to defend that, and then that doesn't allow you to actually seek out the truth, but rather stay comfortable and be in the same place that right? So that's another way to kind of, like, push yourself forward.
And it's not actually comfortable. Like,
Yeah.
in the immediate future, you see it as being comfortable, but over time, shying away from that chance to show your courage,
Yeah.
for Faramir to show his true quality, like, there's a lot of anxiety in your life that you maybe don't connect to that, but it for sure comes from there, because that's the stuff that slowly eats away at your soul, day by day by day by day. And here's when I was talking about walking by the person on the street, right? How indicative of that is of the lack of courage that we have as individuals, in that walking by somebody, making eye contact and smiling at them is something that makes us uncomfortable. Like, it's a fear, if you're uncomfortable like that, when you're like, I don't know what's gonna, that's fear. The fact that we don't even have the courage to walk by somebody and make eye contact with them as another human being, and just, you don't have to smile, you don't have to do anything. It's just, it's a blip, just a little tiny ripple in the fabric of reality that says, like, we're doing the same thing here. Like, we're both in it together. And I notice this type of stuff whenever I really make eye contact with people and have conversation with people. I don't feel isolated from the world anymore. Like, it gives you that intimation of, oh, I'm not the only one that is in this realm of suffering, because that's the fundament of reality, right? Is suffering. But it gives you a little tiny blip of hope, of optimism, that maybe,
and hence humanity,
you can justify
and hence why, like, in order, there was this song, I think it was like a soundtrack for Transformers, but I didn't hear it through that. But it's called The Humber River by the Pacifier or something. It was the lead singer of Tool. He's
Pacifier.
Yeah, Pacifier.
You
Right?
showed it to me.
And it's essentially a song about, like, in order to cross a river, no matter how much rage or muscle, I think that's like the lyrics, or like, how much riches and muscle, like, no matter how much money or manpower, all those, or gun, or like military, or power you have, like, you cannot defeat a true problem unless they're united, right? So you have to so, like, that's how, like, in order for us to all the world itself to progress into something better, is to, like, actually try to have less division. It's weird, like, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. Like, borders are very real. Right?
Yeah.
And like, it doesn't make sense to be killing, because there's a lot of killing happening in the world, and a lot of people don't understand that people are getting killed, like, brutally and massacred, and, like, genocides are happening, and like, it's just, none of those things actually have to happen if we could just kind of intervene in a way where it's about education, But is that ever going to happen? I don't think so. We're too violent of a race, I think.
Well, it's something that will never go away, because that's
No.
that's a fractal idea, right?
Yeah.
The constant struggle between good and evil.
Yeah.
It happens at an individual level.
Mhm.
So if you're somebody who believes that there's good people and bad people, you don't know yourself,
Oh yeah.
because the archetype of Satan and Jesus Christ is not two people. It's within the same person, right? We struggle with this at an individual basis. We have
Yeah.
negative impulses, we have positive impulses,
Yeah.
and we learn to balance them. And then you can then you can extrapolate that to a family, and sometimes families are nice to each other. Sometimes
Yeah.
there's some wonky relationship that happen, and then it's your friends, and then you can extrapolate this to a worldwide scale, that there's a certain percentage of people who are acting out the role of Satan, and there's a certain amount of people who are acting out the role of Jesus Christ, and then there's majority of the population kind of floating in the middle, trying to figure out which one is pulling them more. And that's the constant struggle of humanity, and it'll never go away. But I do think that we go through fluctuations of moving toward one and the other, and one and the other.
But I feel like we could be focusing on maybe. This is why I always gravitate towards that ideal. It's like, hey, like, that's like one problem. Yeah, sure, we don't like each other. Great, that's one problem we're probably solving with killing each other. But we could be solving bigger problems, like energy problems. Like, we could be doing that. It's just like we are not. So that's what makes me go like, yeah, we're a bunch of fucking idiots. We're a bunch of stupid people. That's what makes that makes me just want to do better though, right? It's just like there's something seriously wrong with this picture.
That's it. But
But
you nailed it with, I want to do better. Like, this is not my idea, but just the idea of individual responsibility is so important. And we can talk about mass murder and all this stuff, but the solution is not pointing the finger.
No.
The solution is make yourself into the best possible version of yourself you can possibly be. Maximize or fulfill all of your potential, and have faith that by doing that you will revitalize the world through this ripple effect that we've been talking about. And if you have 5 people that do that, 10,000 people's lives are better within a very short amount of time. Even if it's just a fraction. But over time, that's the way the mass change is implemented, through the individual. And that's a very, very religious idea of the individual being the force for change in the world, the individual creating reality. It's like what I was talking about. You create the world. So if you don't have you figured out, stop pointing the finger. That's it.
Oh yeah. Stop. I thought something else was coming after that. Yeah, man. I there was a lot of things that was racing my mind as you went on there, but what was like I can't even like now that it's done. I was like, oh man, that was intense. I don't even know what I wanted to put input there, but
you know what I was thinking about before, and I was thinking about this last night when we were at Holly's house I was talking to Caitlin about it, and individual responsibility. And this is why I think there's so many young men listening to Jordan Peterson, because individual responsibility is like, learning that was the thing that gave me hope. Because on face value, it sounds depressing. Like, okay, there's sins of the world, that good and evil is within everybody. You need to accept that. It's going to come with a lot of suffering, because the fundament of reality is suffering. But to quote my Yamamoto Musashi once again, seek nothing outside yourself. there's nothing that is going to make reality better than making yourself a stronger individual. Like, right? So reaching your potential, looking inside, saying, what can I do that's within my control to make my life better? And that is so hopeful, because what's the alternative? I'm great. The world sucks. I can't do anything about it. But the fact that every time you think, shit, you know, there's situations where there's tragedy and life just sucks and there's nothing you can rationalize your way out. You can't rationalize your way out of it. But
sometimes shit
for
just
the most
happens.
part, if your life is miserable, you can look inward and say, what am I doing wrong that I know I'm doing wrong that I could fix? That's very hopeful.
Yeah.
And that's like the story Jordan Peterson tells about I'm such a dick rider. But that's the story he tells about his I think he has a friend who was a psychologist as well who had the client, or maybe it was him, and the girl came in and said, I hope there's something wrong with me. And the therapist was like, why do you say that? And she's like, well, if it's something wrong with the world, then we're screwed. But if it's something wrong with me, I can fix it. And that's so powerful. Like, taking responsibility, it's hard, but it's hopeful.
Not only is it hopeful, it's actually empowering, you know.
Yes.
That means you're starting to gain some sort of control over some outcomes. And,
Right.
you know, it might not be easy to do it, and it takes a lot of work, but when once you start to feel that control is starting to happen because you're taking responsibility, it's going to be something you don't want to really let go, you know. Like you'd be really just going back to the Stone Age, letting go of responsibility once you've gained it, and like you understand how to like be responsible for it. And
Right.
yeah,
And it's not control in the sense like what I was doing wrong that you
yeah,
really shook me up about was like not trying to force things,
Yeah,
but control in the sense where
you just
your life is not deterministic.
Yeah, and it's just and what I mean by control is just like being in tune with it, so that you know it's in the right place that it's supposed to be.
Right.
You know, like just only intervene and like only like and only like try to like make change only when necessary. You know, but most of the times it should be working well because that's where you kind of had the intention for, right? And then I think that's just a good way of using optimism. You just you look for the best for every situation. It's not hoping for the best. You look for the best.
Right.
So that's the difference between a naive optimist and someone who's an opportunistic optimist, right?
Opportunistic optimist.
Yeah. It's like,
am I one of those?
yeah, but being an optimist means you're trying to look for the best in every situation.
Yeah.
Right. Not that you're hoping for the best. It's just like it could be a really shitty situation, but you're just looking for the best out of that shitty situation still.
Yeah. And that's why paying attention is such a useful tool.
Oh, damn, yes.
Because it also goes back to the idea of thinking that happiness is the highest virtue.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like happiness is great. What happens when happiness goes away? What do you have to stand on? Because it will. The fundamental
It's a yin and a yang.
Yeah.
There is a bad and a good, and a happy and sad.
life is suffering, right? So what happens when happiness goes away? Right?
Probably sadness ensues.
Exactly. You're depressed and
Yeah.
anxious and all that stuff. But if you're oriented around no matter what happens to me, I am dedicated to enduring and doing my very best to extract the proverbial silver lining. Even like you're saying, in the most dreadful, tragic situation,
Yeah.
it's my responsibility to do my very best to try to find the good. Or maybe there's no good in it,
Yeah.
but you try to maintain your own the good in you through that situation.
Yes.
Um,
Just having some sort of integrity, you know, even though it's hectic and it's things are very out of place and it's very abrupt and it doesn't make sense, but still being able to have some sort of integrity.
Yeah.
And what that means is having a mind that's still enough, that is very calm, that even when like a hurricane happens, that stillness can still somehow ensue through that storm, right? Being unaffected through the hurricane and still making sure you have a centered and a still mind. And I think that's what that means when Jordan Peterson says, be the person that you can be dependent on when a family member passes. Like, don't be that person. Be that person strong enough to understand that, yes, this is terrible. Yes, it's not something we were all looking forward to, or, and but still being able to have some sort of integrity to yourself, so that, if other people need to have someone to depend on, you can be that person.
Yeah, I think he words it. He says, be the person that can be useful at a funeral, right?
I think you should always be a person that can be useful at all times, because it just...
Well, what other choice do you have, right?
Yeah,
like with what we're talking about, right? Something bad happens to you. What's your other choice? Play the victim, wallow in self-pity and self-loathing, and just brood and ruminate and boil in your depression and your... I was there for a long time.
It's the darkest place to be. It's the darkest place to be in your mind.
It doesn't work,
when you don't forgive yourself, or you don't forgive someone, and you're just like kind of stuck in your mind and not letting go of something, and you start creating your own negative emotions based on from that one slightly bad experience. Like, you start to make it more than what it actually was, because you hold on to it. So that's the exact same thing as holding onto a hot coal. The longer you hold on to it, the hotter it's going to get. So the longer you hold on to a bad thought or the worse it's going to get. The worse it's going to, and in some people it turns into murder. Like, it actually does, over something so small and insignificant. And then someone kills them. And that's what that was. That's an extreme version of that, right? Just they brood over in their mind, and like maybe it flashes for them in a second, and they do it in a heartbeat. Like, and you see that, right? Just like so it's...
Well, conversely to what we were talking about, when you say about bringing, trying to find optimism in every situation, if you get to the point where you're brooding like that and just ruminating over your life, it changes your lens for all the other situations. So now instead of seeing the optimism, your lens for reality is now, how can I be the victim in this situation? And that's what you said. That's how you accelerate that process of becoming a kid who was maybe a little bit psychologically unstable and not socialized and picked on, to somebody who becomes a mass shooter, right? It's not,
It doesn't sound like rocket science to me. Some people could be just... I feel like not many people are paying enough attention, again, to understand that, like, all these things that are happening, and all the things that only news likes to focus on, which are all the negative things, is they're not anyone else's fault but our own. Nobody understands this. It's just like all those things that all the things that you see on the news is like, it's your fault. Like, you should understand that you have some sort of responsibility to society, and you're not doing it, and that's why that's happening on the news. That is why people, like, and it's just like, if you went out and made a difference, like, you wouldn't probably sit there and watch the news and just try to load. Like, I feel like watching news is almost like a way to like self-loathe in a way now. Just almost like, you hate yourself so much you want to see other people suffer. Or like, you just want to hear others suffering. You just want to like comfort yourself with more suffering.
Yeah, man.
Because that's apparently the only thing that catches people's attention. How many people get killed and wrecked? That's like what headlines the best. Nothing a breakthrough that could help everybody. Like, I'd like to hear that on the news. That'd be great. Make it a little bit more positive. Like,
and anything positive that comes on is just propaganda.
Yeah, it just,
But yeah, man, you nailed it. That's our boy JC, Jesus Christ, bearing the sins of the world, right? That's what that means.
Yeah.
It's what I was saying before. It's not this idea of saying there's good and bad people, and those are the bad people, and they're why the world sucks. It's bearing the sins of the world means you understanding that there's good and evil within me, and I have the responsibility to make the choice to orient myself towards the good. And that's it. You nailed it. And I think that's why people are so brainwashed and hypnotized into watching the news, is because they're always on the edge of making, they never cross the barrier to make the decision towards the good, that it's almost like they're infatuated by the satanic aspects of reality. Like
they just almost like it just becomes more like their identity to like in like, you know what I mean, because they're just thought patterns are more associated that way, and they're just, and those types of thought patterns start to like anything negative, and like, you know, just like intention to hurt others, intention to like be one over the other, and like stuff like that, that starts to create some sort of physiological response in your body, and that creates more stress, and thereby creating more possible disease or something in your body, you know, like it's not good for you either, you know. It's just like you think it's like, if you think it's like inflicting others, but it truly inflicts you first, because that's, you're feeling those negative things and your body's going to react to it.
I just figured out what it is. It's Cain. You're being Cain. So this is what happens when if you're infatuated with the wrongdoings of other people, right? What's happening is that, so there's two scales, right? There's the population-wide scale of good and evil, and then there's the individual scale of good and evil. And that's what comparing yourself to the ideal is, right? So Jesus is like the ideal, and you compare yourself to him, or your future self is also Jesus, because that's what you could be if you made the decisions to do good. And what happens is, instead of orienting your life to where you're making decisions to do good, you watch other people do bad or do evil, so that your comparison is skewed towards evil, so that you relatively appear more towards the good. Because in your life, you're seeing, oh, these people drive drunk, these people kill people, this guy's a murderer, a raper. And I say raper so often in like the comedic sense, that now I just say that word. But you orient yourself, all you're doing is placing the relative scale towards evil, so that you appear better. And that's what happened in the story of Cain and Abel. Rather than Cain making the proper sacrifice to become like Abel, which Abel was his ideal, his older brother, who he viewed as being more noble, more admirable, because that's who God favored, right? He was more admirable, and Cain's sacrifice was bullshit. So rather than Cain saying, I'm going to do my best to be like him, he said, if I just take him out, then I'm number one. And that's kind of what people do when they watch the news all the time, is it gives them that false sense of self-righteousness, because they're saying, okay, I'm just going to work, I'm not yelling at people, I'm not killing anybody, this is what everyone else is doing, so I must be good, rather than
that's a really good population control thing there. That's another way of looking at that.
Yeah, you gotta go.
Hold that thought. Yes, I gotta go to the bathroom. So.
It's also 5 to 5.
Okay, so I guess we'll just close the podcast
Your
here.
dad's birthday, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was actually yesterday, but we didn't really get together yesterday, so
cool.
Yeah. So today we're doing it.
That was awesome. That was a really good one, man.
Yeah, it was.
You telling me that I need to give the world space.
Yeah.
Space. Give Mike Tyson. Give the world space. To giving things space to breathe and let things happen. Like I noticed myself much better today, not trying to interrupt and interject on you. I was really just like, sometimes I would tell myself to sit back, because it would make me not want to talk, and I just it really allowed us to have a good conversation. And man,
it was a great podcast.
Changed my fucking life. You calling me out on that? It's amazing. It's such a simple thing, but it.
Yeah, no problem. It was, you know, like, it wasn't even like, it wasn't like, I didn't think about it as calling you out. I just thought it would like maybe give you a perspective to like work with, that might like, maybe perhaps you're like, oh yeah, that's something maybe I could work on, right?
Yeah.
And like those things are, and like you do, and like that's all like what people, you want to be around people who do that to you. So like you do that to me in terms of like some things I do with my training. Just like, you know what, that's something that, you know what, I should rethink about. That's something I should like redo, or like, so it goes both ways.
Right.
You know, it's just like feeding on each other of like, you know, good criticisms that
Right.
that will help. It's like iron sharpening iron.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's like we were talking about. It had nothing to do with whether or not you thought it was criticism or not.
Yeah.
That's part of paying attention. If you notice that somebody says something and it hits home, do not deny that. Don't run from that truth. Take it. What's the phrase? I can't think of it. But don't run from that. Take it on the chin.
Yeah.
And understand this gave me a visceral reaction because my subconscious is saying, hey, this is something you need to work on. Like, it's not something that you knew that you were going to tell me and that it was going to revolutionize my life. But because I was paying attention, and I told you right after you said it, I said, when you said that, you hit home, because I felt that feeling in my gut, that guilty instinct that you get, that the cliche, follow your gut.
Yeah.
I literally identified that in the moment and said, whatever you are saying right now is important. And then I just shut up and let you talk for 15 minutes, and it changed me. And that's what, it's just paying attention.
Yeah.
And just not being afraid to say, maybe I need to fix this and work on it. And now a couple days later, that uncomfortable feeling that was associated with it is gone. The guilt of the things like we were talking about last night, like, you know, the conversations where I was probably being an asshole and being arrogant and all that, like, the guilt is gone because
exactly.
I took it on the chin. I realized what it was, and I made the change.
Yeah.
So not that it's done. I will continue to make the change.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah. Fucking
Awesome.
I still say fucking though. Can't get rid of that. I think we're getting better.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that was
All right. And that's numero 5, right?
yeah. So this one will be up today. Like
Yeah.
I said, it should be up today, if not tomorrow. The other one's up, so you get a double dose of Free to Offend this weekend.
Great.
Yeah.
Right.
All 7 of you. I love you fuckers. Thanks for tuning in. And also,
thank you very much for tuning in.
The people who have given us feedback, I'm not sure, like you in particular, but quite a few people have given me feedback on what we do right, like the volume issues. I had to kind of fix that, but like, thank you, because we appreciate it. It's not, I know there's not like a ton of people listening at this point, but it we really do think about it and appreciate it. So
Yeah, thank you very much.
have a good
everyone.
afternoon, evening, morning, whenever you listen to this.
Yeah.
And
Stay in tune for the next one. Cheers, everyone.
yeah, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Ciao.